Idaho's first public university wants to go private, well, at least partly. When the state's premier land-grant university announced about a month ago it wanted to join up with the University of Phoenix, a private for-profit college, it took a lot of people by surprise, including some Idaho lawmakers whose job is controlling the purse strings of the Moscow-based school. Well, several of those legislators, members of the State Board of Education and leaders from the U of I got together last week to talk about it, with the goal of getting closer to an affiliation agreement with the U of P, the mostly online school whose ads you've likely seen while watching your favorite sporting event. Vandal leadership says they see this as securing their school's future, since most students these days lean toward less traditional educational opportunities. The purchase price, $550 million. But the two schools would not just become one school. It'd be two separate schools affiliated with unique identities. So the surprise factor of this potential purchase had several lawmakers wondering about non-disclosure agreements, how this deal got to this point with very few people knowing about it. You know, transparency stuff. Here's Joe Paris.
The target is on the table for the University of Idaho. They hope to make a deal to affiliate with the University of Phoenix to improve access to education around Idaho. University of Idaho says the purchase would be financed through non-taxable and taxable bonds through a new nonprofit organization they would set up to manage assets of the University of Phoenix. Idaho lawmakers have major questions about the deal.
We see that this transaction has potential, but we also see that it has risk. And as elected representatives, we, on this committee specifically, have the duty of fiscal oversight of the taxpayers' money.
Representative Wendy Horman is one of the leaders on Idaho's budgeting committee. They met to ask questions to University of Idaho and state board leaders.
We want to trust, but we must verify. And if we can't verify, we can't trust. We want to ensure that this deal is constitutional, legal, financially sound, and that Idaho taxpayers will not pay the price if the deal does go awry.
If the deal does go awry and loses money, University of Idaho President Scott Green says U of I is agreeing to guarantee up to $10 million annually to cover payments if the nonprofit they set up to manage the project cannot cover funds. But U of I advocates for the deal say that they aren't concerned because of the University of Phoenix's documented ability to generate substantial cash flow. A hang-up for lawmakers centers on non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, that University of Idaho and state board leaders sign that prevents them from sharing details of the deal and projections of operation.
I fully recognize the way this transaction was conducted was not ideal and probably was not my preference. But as those of you who work in business know, sometimes we have to play the cards that we're dealt and make compromises to reach agreements to get done. This transaction came to us very recently. We quickly identified the transaction, and we put together a review team of the best and brightest experts out there.
Lawmakers expressed that they understood the principle of the NDAs, but still question how they and the public are supposed to understand the deal and risks with it without access to more information. President Green explained that the NDAs also benefit Idaho as the buyer.
On the buyer side, what it enables us to do is go in and take a look at the books and records at a detailed level, ask detailed questions, assess for ourselves the risk involved, and get our experts, which we have world-class experts here, the best in the business, to take a look at that and determine, okay, what are the risks?
Lawmakers asked questions about the deal and risks surrounding it for about 2 hours. U of I and state board leaders essentially explained that public money was only at risk in a worst-case scenario, something leaders concede is highly unlikely but still a risk. Some lawmakers are hoping and asking if the NDAs can be dropped ahead of the deal closure.
This transaction is not done until it's closed. And in the meantime, that competitive information could get out into the marketplace and to their competitors. So I'm just saying, I just don't see them doing that. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's kind of, you know, where it is, and that's kind of the way business is done.
Idaho lawmakers also questioned if executive session meetings at the state board level violated any possible laws, implying that it could have been an oversight of very strict rules on making business deals behind closed doors away from the public. State board and U of I leaders explained their process and assured lawmakers that they are aware of the rules and followed them. But Brian, lawmakers will continue to research the topic and ask a lot of questions. Meanwhile, if all of this does go through, the accrediting boards for the University of Idaho and the University of Phoenix, they need to approve this and make sure that everything's on the up and up. That wouldn't happen towards the very end of the year, so November, so a long way to go. But there's a lot of important questions, but it was a pretty unique business deal here.
I assume when President Green said this came upon us rather quickly, this had to do with our state of Arkansas saying no to a similar type deal with the University of Phoenix. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the University of Phoenix had kind of been working with the state of Arkansas and the University of Arkansas for several years. And you could ask the people in Arkansas what happened there, but long story short, the deal didn't go through.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the University of Idaho is on the table as an option, and it looks like it's got a strong chance of happening, but we'll see.
All right, they're going to look into it a little bit further. All right, thank you very much, Joe.